So as I get rolling here, man, people, we're all in the people business. I think that's the biggest thing that like we all have to realize if you really want to build a scalable company that can really grow, is you understand that, you know, we just happen to fix cars, right? Or we just happen to, whatever it is you do, right? At the end of the day, none of that really matters compared to our ability to hire great people, to find talent, to get them to, you know, want to work for us, to, you know, ultimately scale the company. And like, you know, if we don't have great people, none of it is going to matter. And so, the skills that you can learn are, man, I'm having so much freaking trouble here. All right. I think I'll just survive. Let me just find out where my mouse goes. There we go. Okay. Cool. That's my frame. Awesome. And so I think the first question, like whenever I'm thinking about like, how do I want to build a team? And so for context, you know, my company today, we do about 50 million in revenue, a little bit more. We've got, I don't know, 225 kind of employees that work for us across all locations. You know, we're in the auto repair, business is my main business. And so, you know, we're constantly going through this process, right? Of this idea of like finding talent. And there's a couple things that I'm going to say that we go through when doing this. First is this question of I'm going to look to hire people based on who they are more than I'm going to say what they've done. Right? Because if you think about it, when we go to fire somebody, right? If someone doesn't work out, it is never because they're like, oh, you said you like had all this experience to do X, Y, and Z, and it turns out like you don't, right? That's usually not the case. Usually it comes down to things like, you know, their work ethic is like, they're just not a hard worker, right? They're not as hard of a worker as you thought they were. Maybe they have a big ego where they care about themselves, right? Is all they're going to talk about. Maybe it comes down to, they have very low accountability, right? Accountability is basically, you know, do you do the things that you said you're going to do? Like you told someone to go and handle this thing. They said, yeah, boss, I got it. And they didn't do it, right? That is like low accountability, or potentially no accountability. You know, there's potentially integrity, right? If people steal, right, because they don't have high integrity and, you know, they don't really care about you or the company or whatever else, they just want to care about themselves and they're thieves, then like, that is something that, you know, obviously you get terminated for. So when you think about it, when we want to build a scalable team, we want to really grow, it's never about what they've done. It's always about who they are as a person and in how they interact on your team. So you think about even jobs, like if you don't own a business, but maybe you're an employee, you think about like, you know, your growth. And if you've excelled, it's because you show up every day, you work hard, you're a team player, whatever it is, you do it. And like, you've probably been recognized for those actions, right? And if you've had people on your team are like, man, I don't want to work with this guy. Like this guy sucks. Or even this boss I have sucks. It's always about who they are. And knowing that, then like the goal in hiring is to have a stronger filter for it. So our filter is as hard as we can to identify who they are as a person, you know, before or very early on in our employment. And so there's this question, okay, well, how do we do that, right? That sounds great. I would love to do it, but how do you actually go about determining who somebody is? And there's you know, a bunch of different ways. The first thing I'm going to do is on the resumes, I'm going to look for certain things, right? One of them I'm going to look for is tenure, where I want to see, you know, somebody who's had very few jobs, right? Or if they have jobs, they've at least been there for like 2 or 3 years, right? If you look at a resume and somebody has jumped around like every 6 to 9 months, and they've had, you know, 5 jobs in 3 years or whatever the math would be, chances are like there's definitely a common thread there. Maybe the person just hasn't found something they really love, but for the most part, Like I found that the quicker someone jumps around, the more likely they're going to continue to jump around. And so I'm looking at tenure. The best questions that I have when going through resumes and talking to people is finding out why they left, right? So I simply want to know this job, tell me what you loved about it and tell me why you left. And then each job I'm listening, right? And I'm taking notes. And what I'm looking for is common threads, right? I want to know that if every job they left and it sounds like they were the victim, right? Or like, oh, like I was passed up for this, or they didn't do that, or like, it's victim and it's excuses and it's a sense of like woe is me. I'm always like whatever put out here. Chances are, right, they might have very low accountability because, they're saying like I have no responsibility. Like everything around me, everyone else, it's never my fault, right? That's like generally victim mindset, generally somebody with low accountability. So that's a trait that I would look for. On the other hand, if, there's perfectly good reason people leave jobs, right? That they were mistreated or, sometimes it's that the company has changed direction in a way that they don't want to be part of, right? That, I mean, we've hired people who ownership changed and now they're doing things that morally they don't agree with. Totally fine, right? And so I'm going to jump into the resumes. I want to try to ask as many questions as I can that are around the whys, the hows, the whats, the really, really get in. Like you want to ask, there's this series of, I don't know. It's like, I think it's like five deep or something. There's this so the goal was you ask question after question after question. So it'd be like, all right, tell me why you had this, what you liked about that job. And they tell you it. And then it's like, well, why did that? Okay. And then tell me why again, or how did you do that? And the goal is you want to get as detailed level as possible because somebody who is really strong in the whole thing will be able to continue to answer those questions. Somebody who doesn't have that insight or they're trying to hide stuff will have much more difficulty going to as you kind of go deeper and deeper in the details. So it's tell me more. And so anyway, that's the first level. So when we're screening people, when I'm screening anybody, this is what I want to understand is the whys, the hows, the whats, and as much detail as possible. The next thing that I'm looking for in who is the traits, right? It's well, what are the traits that I'm looking at for people? I talked earlier how why we fire people. I'm essentially looking for the inverts, right? The inverse of all those. So we want people, and this is my organization. So for you, part of it is for you to develop your own or steal mine, whatever. These are pretty universal. So we want people who are extremely driven. I don't want to have to motivate somebody. If I need to call up a manager or my CEO or district managers or anybody has to call somebody up and be like, come on, man, you can do it, blah, 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 cheerleader them on. We got the wrong person, right? No one has to motivate me every day. I am a self-driven person that wants to win. My entire leadership team, all of them are extremely driven, high-performing people. My best managers who just absolutely kick ass, extremely driven. Best tech. So the best people in the world are extremely driven. And so that is the number one trait. If they don't have that and I'm not interested, right? So driven. Again, how do we look for people that are driven? It's the same thing. It's situational based questions to find out situations. So have them give you as much situational detail as possible to ask questions around, tell me about a time when this happened, right? And Claude and ChatGPT are great for helping create these questions. I may not be the best on the fly, but tell me about a time where, you had a goal in a tight timeline to meet it and you blew it out of the water. All right. And they tell you the thing and they'll be like, all right, well, what specifically did you do? How did we get the team involved? Was there anybody on your team that was slacking that other people had to pick up for? What did you do? What did you do? Tell me more. Right. So we're looking for drive. We're looking at situational based questions. If you're hiring salespeople, the best salespeople will know their bonus plans inside and out. This is it's like a little trick. So I'm going to ask somebody if they're in a sales-driven role. Now, if they're not in a sales-driven role, maybe this question's a little less relevant. But if they are in any sort of sales or performance-driven role, I'm going to ask them pay plans. And what I want to know, and this is the trick here, is first I ask, what was of all the jobs you had, tell me what was the job that had the best bonus plan or the best pay plan. This is the trick here, right? And so they're going to tell me, oh, it was my last job, or it was 2 jobs ago, whatever it is. Okay, and I say, great. Tell me exactly how you got paid. Tell me about your bonus plan. And the best ones will be like, oh yeah, I got I don't know, I had a base of, I don't know, I'm just going to make up numbers, $800 a week. And I got, plus, 2% of this if it was, 20K. And then I got 3% of this if I hit 25K and blah, 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 blah. They're going to know it. And if they leave any gaps, I'm going to ask them, all right, was that it? Or there other percentages, or how did it work? Where did you rank in terms of salespeople? What was your budget every month? What was your goal? How often did you hit it? What was the most amount of money you made? What was the least amount? How did the most, what was the level of turnover at that position? Why do you think some guys failed? Why do you think some guys succeed? Just question after question after question. And I'm a detailed person, so maybe this is a little bit more easy for me, but I want to see how sharp they are. And I want to see how much they know their plan, because a driven person, somebody who wants to win and they want to make money, and once again, these are sales driven people, are going to know their pay plans inside and out. Versus if somebody's like, oh yeah, he just told you it was the best pay plan that he ever had, and now you ask him for details and he can't tell you any details. He's like, oh yeah, we got a percentage of sales. And I'm like, okay, well, what percentage? And he's like, I don't know. It was anywhere, I don't know, it was 3, I think, or maybe it was 4. And okay, well, how often are you getting it? And well, some weeks I got it and some weeks I didn't. And you could just tell right away, they don't know their plan. And again, driven people are going to know it inside and out. I would bet right now, if you owned a business and you talk to your best people and you said, hey, explain your pay plan back to me. Explain exactly how you get a bonus, like the bonus that I pay you. Explain that to me. I will bet money that they're going to know it very well. And I bet your worst performing people who you think maybe are a little lazy and not so driven are going to stumble on that number. And so driven, I would dive into pay plans. I would dive into details. I would drive into motivational based stuff. All right. The next thing that we are really looking for are team players. Business is a team sport. And so we want people that want to be part of a team, right? This is the opposite of somebody with a high ego. Somebody with a high ego, it's only about them. They would burn everyone else to the ground if it meant them making a bigger check or whatever, getting ahead. And so we want the opposite of high ego. We want low ego. I'm going to do it for the team. So that means if, we have automotive shops, right? 36 of them. And we have sometimes people that need to be shared between stores. Somebody calls out, someone's sick, someone's on vacation. We have to transfer people for a day or two to help cover down at another store. Everyone has to be more than willing to go and make that move for the guy that, especially for the person doing it, but also for the team that he's leaving to go cover for another store. We want that. Yes, it's not great. Yes, we would be nicer if we had the staff, but we want a company that it feels frictionless versus there's a fighting and, oh, you're going to have to owe me additional money because you took my guy and this and that, right? So we want people who have this team player mentality. And so same thing when we're interviewing people, when we're looking for them, we're asking questions to determine that in terms of their team player atmosphere, which are, tell me about a time that you were on a team and something happened. Someone wasn't carrying their weight. Someone was doing all the work, right? X, Y, and Z. So situational based questions, tell me more, team players, right? We're looking for that. Integrity. I mentioned this before, but our definition of integrity is there's no amount of money that is worth, doing the wrong thing, right? There's no amount of money, and especially in our world with automotive, where there's a high mistrust. We take this extremely serious. And so same thing, we want to really gauge it as much as you can. This is obviously one that people can hide relatively easy. No one's going to tell you they're a thief, but we do our best. It's another one through references. We're going to try to figure out in terms of why people left. And I'll get that into in a little bit here, but Integrity, it's a core value we live by. It's one that we're gonna do our best to filter. Really, it's like, have we heard or learned, or is there something that they did in the past that caused them to leave a job? If it was due to theft, if it was like in our business, it's like you take cash for a job, you take from a customer, it doesn't go through the register. People steal tires or like whatever other crap. Generally, once a thief, always a thief. If they did it once, they're going to do it again. And so, we will look to find out does someone leave through integrity? And then if they do, we're not going to look to hire that person at all. And then finally is accountability. And so accountability is, do they do the things that they said they were going to do? Do they set goals? Do they achieve them? Do they come and like if they need help, they ask for it. They don't just like sweep it under the rug. So we are looking for who's, right? So for you got to define what it is in your business of people. Like, what are the qualities that you look for? The best way to do this is just like get a whiteboard, just like write down all your top players, write down all your bottom players, try to write words that describe them. And if you do this in somewhat of a team atmosphere, sometimes that can help. And then you can kind of like organize the thoughts of like the people and put them together. You may have slightly different ones. These are the ones that we've come up with. And so this is, and it's more than just hiring. Like, we live by these. Like, every single week on our company calls, we are reviewing each one of these core values, and we are highlighting someone, an active person who displayed these core values that week. Team player, driven, accountability, high integrity, and accountability. And people, so it lives in our culture. So that would be the first thing I would be looking for, is to find these core values, work on your interview process to figure out a better way to do it. Another tool that we use that works really well is called, it's called Predictive Index. There's another one that's called Culture Index. They're pretty similar. We use Predictive though, where it's a more data-backed personality test. And so basically how it works is, like, anybody that applies, we send them this thing. It takes them like 3 minutes to do. It's super easy. It's just a bunch of word bubbles or words that they like click. That's like, how they naturally act, or how they act in like at work. And it gives us a scale for the person. So it's really interesting. Is it, and I'll just write this down up here, Predictive Index. So we have, there's like 4 different categories, and I'm not like super detailed on which one of them, but I'm just gonna show you this thing. Like, I think it's like here. So there's these like 4 categories, and then there's these bands, and we have defined what we want each one of these like bands to live in. So let's just say this one, then this one. Okay. So there's these 4 bands, and then for every person, it will tell us that says, hey, they were like in this band here, maybe they were over here, maybe they were here, and then maybe they were like something like that. Like, that would be a profile. So it would tell us these different traits, and it would give us an idea of how well that person potentially fits the ideal model for the role. There may be somebody else who we talk to that looks like this, and it's like they're literally complete opposite, where they're literally not in any of the boxes. Like, we want somebody with high drive, and maybe there's somebody with like low drive. We want somebody who is a big, maybe one of these is like a team player, and they're like totally not. And we want somebody who is flexible, and maybe they're extremely rigid. And so that's basically what this does. And so it's a really interesting tool, because it allows us to see, like, it gives us questions to ask to explore potential misalignments. So it's going to say, if you have somebody that looks like this, it's possible, maybe that one's extreme. If I go back to my other one, that's like, hey, they're good here, maybe they're good here, maybe they're okay here, and maybe they're a total miss here. And so what it's going to do is like give us questions to ask in the interview process to figure out like this misalignment in terms of whatever that thing is, independence or detail oriented or this or that. And at the end, we may decide, okay, it's like, okay, we're okay with like this thing because this isn't like hard and fast, but it's directionally accurate. And so It's a really good tool. It is pretty expensive. I think I don't know. We pay about, I think it's like 15 grand a year for this. I mean, we hire about over 100 people a year though. So like for me, it makes sense. And one hire could easily make me 100 grand. And so, worth it to us. There are some other tools. They also might have like a lower plan. It might depend on how many people you put through it. I'm not totally sure. But, our goal was we do a lot of hiring. We wanted a tool that was more data backed and data driven versus just, I don't know, just like gut instincts. And so it's been a good one for us. It also shows like if someone's not willing to take like a 2-minute little like test thing, chances are they're not really serious about the job. And so it just helps us like filter through who we even talk to. Okay. So my next part of like when we're looking for people is going to be interview process. So when we do it, there's a couple things. First, we start with a phone call. So for us, a phone call, the goal is just like make it super quick and easy, right? Like the goal is just like, is this person real? Are they interested? Do they meet the like bare minimum qualifications? So for automotive mechanics, for us, we need to have, they got to work Saturdays, right? Saturdays is their biggest day of the week. And so if we get on the phone with somebody, and even though the job description said Saturdays is required, if they say, well, I'm unwilling to work Saturdays or only do one a month, it's not going to work. So that person, boom, immediately eliminated from the thing. We don't have to waste any more time with them. So that's the first goal is like you have a phone interview process to quickly eliminate people. Now, obviously you could do this probably through some AI and through forms, but sometimes like, I don't know. Sometimes an application comes through, it looks good. We just want to pick up the phone. We want to call them, and we want to go through real quick. Speed matters. The quicker you can get to somebody, the more success that you're going to have in like getting their interest. Because if they're applying to jobs, they're probably applying to hundreds of jobs, and most people like aren't going to wait around for like the perfect thing that checks every single box. Like chances are they're going to be the first one that A, offers them a job, B, is like in the pay range that they want to be, and C, they like the environment. They think they're going to do well. Like they think it's a good fit. And so speed really matters. And if somebody applies and it's a week later and we don't even reach out to them for a week, I can tell you right now, like we're not hiring that person. Or if we do, it's like they're probably not that good because of a whole bunch of other people passed on them, right? And so speed really matters. So do the phone thing, get to them really quick. That's why you want to have like a quick phone screening process just to like cut them off if they're no good. Then what we're going to do is we'll bring them in person for. And it's like partly depends on what the role is. An entry level role is going to have less barriers, right, than an executive or like higher level role. But in person, same thing. Are they prompt? Do they dress like they want the job? In person, that's really we want to get into all these questions I talked about a little earlier. They're like, I'm gonna sit there with their resume, print it out. I want to go through every item. I want to see how they react. I want to see what excuses they're making or not, taking accountability or not. And really just like getting the vibe of the person. If it's a manager that we're hiring or somebody that interacts with customers, the number one thing that I'm personally looking at is like the energy, right? It's like the energy of the person. Like, are they excited? Do they want to be there? Do they have that aura of like, hey man, this person's like I enjoy being around this person, because if I enjoy being around them, customers are going to enjoy being around them, right? Or like, I've interviewed plenty of people who like, it's like they don't want to be there, right? They're like, oh, this sucks. Like, I'm just on my way to another thing. They come in like, they could be coming in reeking a pot. There's like all kinds of stuff, right? And you get this energy that's just like, man, like, why did this guy even show up? And, we want to hire people who want to be there. And so this is one that like, I've developed it very well over the years. I've hired, hundreds of people by now. And you just immediately meet people like, man, this guy's got it. And then other ones you meet and they're like, they're not at all. But I would really be looking at that. I would really be testing your people. So if you aren't, if you have someone below you doing the hiring, what I'm looking for is, do they like, and this is maybe the second level, but like if somebody brings me somebody they want to hire and I think their energy is completely off and they have no energy, like then that makes me question my hiring manager to be like, dude, like how do you not feel this or see this? And so anyway, big one for me here. All right, some comments. I got Zane here. What's up, dude? He said, what do you do? They do ad, resume, questionnaire, phone Zoom, in-person, tryout, offer. Yep. Yeah, same thing. So for us, same thing. Oh, whoops. Doing a tryout is a huge advantage for us. That, someone could do really well in an interview. They could say amazing things. They could do all the right stuff. But then you bring them into the fire, right? You're like, all right, like in our business, if someone says they have a bunch of experience in automotive repair sales, and like we can bring them in and we'll build the ticket and be like, all right, the car needs brakes and tires and whatever, this and that, and like go sell it. And if they could just pick up the phone or bring them out and they're smooth and they got it, they can handle objections, they clearly understand it. Great. I mean, we've like tested other people, and it was like it was like the first time they were ever doing it. Like, I don't know whether they were nervous or they just didn't actually know what they were doing. But, we've like, dodged the bullets on some people that were just like, would not succeed in our organization because we do a 2-hour trial. Like, it doesn't even have to be that long. Like you get them in there and you can see what you can do. It's great if we can do it for mechanics. It's a little bit, obviously different because of like insurance reasons and like making sure that, everybody's covered. We got some different ideas. We can work on that. But anyway, that is kind of our process. Yeah. Then from there is offer. But back to the speed thing. Like, your goal is to make this process as quick as you can without cutting corners, right? Because the longer you drag this out, and if they get an offer from a competitor, like, they're going to take it. And so your goal is the lead to speed, just like you would customers, right? Just like you have a lead for a job or whatever it is, you're not gonna slow play it. And then finally references. So one of my tricks with references is so you ask the person we're hiring, hey, give me the best. If say it was a mechanic they were hiring, we said, give me the best, 2 of the best mechanics that you've ever worked with, right? And so they do, and we go through the process and just ask about them and how long they work together. And he graded himself as an X, Y, and Z. Do you think that's accurate? Would you like to work with him again? Whatever we can get out of it. But there's something else that we did. We asked him for the best mechanic he ever worked with. And guess what? We're looking to hire best mechanics that we can. So if we like that guy, we feel like, man, this guy's like pretty sharp. We get him talking. Then all of a sudden, now we have another lead, right? We have another lead for a high quality person, at least that's vetted from the person that we, or have just brought on. And I mean, that's worked. That is 100% worked for us. And I know it's worked in other people across industries, not even just like automotive, but it's kind of like a way to get, leads on other guys. So don't sleep on references. I know for years I didn't want to make them because I was like, I just get like the HR person and they wouldn't tell me anything. And it was like, felt like it was kind of a waste of time. But this new angle of really asking coworkers and what did it feel like to work together? And now we have a lead on a potential future employee. Way more leverage, way better process there. So, do I hire accountants for the stores? How do we trust them? Yeah. So on the back office side, great question. On the back office, so we almost our entire back office is remote, or I'm going to say global. So we have a global back office. And so our structure now, we have a much bigger company, right, than a lot of people. But generally, yeah, I mean, all of our AP, so all the people that do bill pay and accounts receivable, so who collect the money, who send the bills, our controller, who's the one like over all the team, what I'm going to call the generals. So like they're the ones that reconcile all the bills, do all the bookkeeping, do all the like, making sure the cash is in the bank and all that stuff. And we have someone like an HR/payroll preps, so somebody who like preps with all the things. All of those people are global. And then locally, we've got it here in our office, we've really just got, HR, we have our CFO, and we have an AP, one of our AP leads who's been with us for, a very, very long time. So we have a small team here. We probably have 3 people here. I think we have 10 people-ish, something like that, globally. And so we've had a ton of success in terms of hiring overseas. If anybody's looking for some recommendations, I'm happy to tell you that the companies that we like to use. But yeah, that's what in the back office, it's a similar process. It's a little bit different, but a lot of the people we're hiring are based on references now because we have so many people, and a lot of them have worked with other people, so it's a little bit easier. But in the beginning, same process of like, we're looking for a job. We're using these recruiters is what we use. We use global based recruiters, so they're helping us find specific roles in whatever country. So it was a lot of people in the Philippines initially. Now we're looking for more and more people in Latin America. We're having success with. So okay, so we go from the phone interview, we go from the in-person interview, we get them on board, all that stuff, we get them hired. Then our next kind of step here is our onboarding. So with onboarding, the goal is how quickly can we integrate this person into our culture, right? So it's speed to like they feel like they fit in, and years ago it used to be. They just show up to the location. We're like, all right, here's your new boss and teammates, and good luck. And sometimes it works, but then sometimes that last one out's the first one to leave, and it's like this kind of revolving door. And so we're not perfect here. I'm not gonna say that we got it all figured out. We definitely don't. We definitely could be way better. But it's something that we're really conscious of, and we're really working to figure out how do we onboard and integrate people into our organization as quickly as we can. It's much easier when you're smaller, when you have, just a few locations, you can have when I had just a few, I could be a very hands-on, I could personally work with everyone, I could do all the things. But as you get bigger and bigger, you're relying more on creating a system to do this versus individual. So a couple things for us, what we do now is for managers, at least, is we do a 3-day training. So this requires a ton of organizational overhead. This is not to be taken lightly, and it's evolved. It used to be 1 day, then it was 2, now it's 3. And so what our team does, one of it's a combination of people. So our COO and our district managers. So we rotate between a couple people, bring all the people we've hired, let's say over the last, 2 weeks, and maybe we're bringing some people who've maybe just been a couple months. We bring them into a classroom, which is inside of one of our stores, and in that training we are walking through I would say the most important 20% that'll deliver 80% results. And so we're going to talk about all the pillars that are important to us with how we treat customers, the company history, the company culture, what it takes to win here. We're going to role play things, right? The things that are really important to us, which is how do we answer the phones? How do we treat customers? How do we estimate jobs? This kind of thing. And, we want to see people with notebooks, right? Taking notes on all the stuff they're learning. And the next day they're going to be expected to basically recite, what did we learn yesterday? What surprised you? What don't you believe yet? What do we need to reinforce? And we've had multiple people quit during this onboarding process, which is absolutely amazing, right? That's what we want to see, because we want to see if someone if this is too much for them, they're not going to last in the long run, right? And so it's better for them, it's better for us, the quicker we can get to know whether they've got it or not. The reverse happens too, where there are some people that were maybe a little bit borderline, and they absolutely blow the wheels off in this, where they have excellent retention, they're nailing the process, they're the teacher's favorite or whatever. Their hands are raising up, and they know all the answers, and then they're implementing. Then the next week they are doing the things that they learned in the training, and they're a week or two into working for us, and they're following everything to a T. And those people then get themselves on this fast track for, hey, we have a promotion, or now we have a board here in our office with all of our people, and it's color coded. And, they get the rising star thing. So when opportunities come up, they become on a short list, right? Because they prove to us, and they get in front of us way quicker than not having this. And, it could potentially take, weeks for maybe them to learn all the things and the expectations. So I would, if you don't have a strong onboarding process currently, it's one of the areas that I know for us has really helped in just speeding up the like discovery of, do we have an A player on our team or not? And that's really the biggest benefit. So then we have a process that, you know, our team has like laid out, which is a number of things. One of them is to do a, you know, I'm going to say a 1 week paycheck review. So our technicians, for example, get paid a percentage of you know, what they produce. And so at the end of the first week, we want to we're going to sit down with them and we're going to review to make sure they understand like all the numbers and how it works and you know, what they did well and you know, if they didn't hit their numbers, what are they going to do next week, right? And then we do the same thing again the next week and probably at the 1 month mark. So we do a few of these like paycheck reviews for the store managers or the assistant manager, because normally they're coming on as like assistants. We don't hire that many people directly in because we want to promote. It's the same thing. We're to review the numbers. Where did the store do well? You know, what was the bonus plan as soon as they're eligible? Because sometimes it takes a little time for them to be eligible, and going on that. But the point is, like, we want to intentionally put as much effort in as we can into speed up the time frame as much as you can. And the other part of this is having some good checklists. So if you can't afford the capacity to do like a massive in-day program, the other part that is very helpful are checklists, which are going to be like, you know, the first like day, like could be day 1, right? 1 day, 7 day, you know, 14, 30, 60, 90, something like this, where you're going to have after 1 day, this is what you should know. And it could just be like, you know, in the shops, it's like, here's how you turn the lights on. Here's how we like turn the compressors on. Like, it's super basic, right? Here's how we do here's the computer. You know, after a week, it could be, you know, the expectation that they know how to check people in and out, or they know how to take payments. They know how to like receive bills, like all the stuff that like, you know, would go on in a week to week. After 30 days, it could be, you know, they got to be following our phone scripts. They got to be able to be closing their job, estimating like 75% of the stuff that we do. They have to be closing at, you know, a rate that's comparable to, you know, other people in their position. And then maybe after 60 days, it's they can run the store solo. And then maybe after 90 days, they can, you know, not only run it, but they can like, they're fully integrated. They can beat the manager's numbers when they're running it, because people want to like show off if they're like newer, right? And just like they're end to end, we trust them. Like they can run. They don't need a babysitter. They're good to go. So I would highly recommend putting something at minimum like this. So then when you go in to check on them, or if they're working with somebody else, like on your team, like they're working with another manager, that manager has this list, they have the list, they can kind of go through it just to fill the gaps. Because if you walk in there in day 14 and it's like, man, you don't know how to do all these things, like how do you not know this already? You want to be able to answer this question of, is it a problem with the person, right? That they're just like not retaining it, or did your like more senior trainer person never show them, right? So the more you can have this documented and systematized, the easier this will be. Again, to just like the whole goal is you want to remove as many variables as possible. So we want to remove the variable that like we don't have the right person. Like we want to know if we got the person or not, and then then it's like, is the trainer good? Awesome. And any questions you guys have, put them in the chat as you're going, or if there's anything like you're doing with like, man, this is like a super hard position to hire, or what do you look for? Want my advice on any of that? Happy to provide it. So, all right, next they're onboarded. Then there's this like retention. So we found them, we got them onboarded. Now, how do we keep them, right? How do we keep our people, especially the good ones, and the ones we want to keep? There's a million books on this. There's a million different things you can read. At the end of the day, I'm a firm believer that people don't quit their job. They quit their boss when they leave. They have a problem with their superior, whoever that person is, right? And it's usually their direct boss. But it's happened to us. Like we've had multiple people that were great, like killer store managers, and they had a problem with the person right above them. They were like in our world, it's called a district manager, and they ended up leaving because of that relationship. And we were really frustrated because we would have fired that district manager over losing that manager. Like but we didn't know about it. So it was a fall on us for not having a good process in place to do what I'm going to call like a skip meeting or a skip level, which is basically like skipping, especially as your company gets bigger, you develop these like layers of people, and to not ask, like, so it's the district manager going straight to, for example, a technician, or the COO or whoever going straight to a store manager to get an opinion, not going through a district manager. Now, on an ongoing basis, yes, we need to have org structure in place for communications of messages. We can't have, 225 people reporting all the way up to me for every little thing, right? That's not like scalable, and that's not what I mean. But it's just on occasion, we want to take a pulse that ensures that we don't lose, especially our best people, because of an issue they're having with their direct boss that they may not be bringing up because they feel it's like inappropriate, or they don't feel like they don't want to call you up and complain about it because they think whatever they think. You don't care. They're not going to listen. Like, they're going to have some reason that they do it, unless you can create this channel that says, hey, listen, especially for your best guys and your top performers, you want to make sure that they know they can always talk to you. So that would be just something to be aware of, and a huge mistake that I've made. And we've tried to get this person back because we did fire the boss, and we still haven't gotten him yet. So thinking about retention, right? It's like, well, then you think through, why do people like leave their jobs? Why do they leave their bosses? One of the things that we're, I think we've done a really good job on, and we continue to do, is recognition. So it's finding ways to give recognition to everybody, or everybody who deserves it. And so we do that through, I'm going to say our company call. So every week we have a company call. We bring everybody on. We talk about the core values. We highlight, here are the winners. Here are the guys who had the best weeks. We look at both volume and we look at growth. Because if you just look at volume, sometimes it's always the same names, like week after week after week. It's Jimmy runs your top store, whatever it is, it's Jimmy's name every time. People kind of get tired of it, right? But if you can talk about growth, which is who had the best, sometimes we look at growth versus last year. Other times we look at growth versus a rolling number. So if for example, we said, hey, this store, normally does 20K a week, and, we did 30K a week, right? That's a 10K, maybe a 50% growth. Let's say that's like rolling 6, and that's last week, versus another store. Man, I'm like running out of space here. Let's say we just had another store that normally does, 50,000, and they did 55,000. Like, great week. They had a 10% growth. So in some ways, we're a little bit more excited to talk about the guy who beat the number he's been at by 50%, because like that's like the compound element of speed, versus the one who's like already does pretty good. He's already at the top. Like, it's not that much different, right? So finding ways to recognize not only volume, but who's making progress. We also do that for the core values. I talked about that a little bit ago. Another thing we do that we've been doing now for well over a year is physical letters. So what we'll do at the end of every month, we send a physical letter to the teammate of every single person who works at a store that had a record month. And it's not just, we'll look at cars, we'll look at sales, we'll look at sometimes tires, like some of the different things that we're looking to do and do better on. We'll go out, and so they'll get a personalized signed letter. My our CEO signs it, my brother signs it. I do some of them where it goes to the home, and it talks about thanks them for their contribution, and it reinforces the our goals and just kind of who we are and like what we stand for, and I know some of them go in the fridge. I know some of them have never received like a something from a company to recognize their efforts, and so it does mean a lot, and it costs us the price of a stamp. Essentially, it's essentially free, and so that is something that I highly recommend. I mean, we do it for years. We're going to continue doing it, and so parties, right? Like, we do company parties, same thing. We're giving out awards on. Again, it's how do we recognize volume? How do we recognize growth? How do we recognize tenure? So the guys who've been here a lot, but then we also recognize rookies, like guys who are new to the team and who's contributing. It's like we want to find ways to look at our teams in all these different dimensions, and then that allows us to just acknowledge more people, right? And that's what it's all about. And that's ultimately how you build a sustainable, like long growth team is knowing that the longer we can keep people, the better, and having those lines of communication and just being grateful for it all. So, and then from there, like the final part of this is I think on the growth, on the like internal growth, I'm going to say, where, right, people want, there's this Tony Robbins saying, I think it's him, that says progress equals happiness, and that this idea that people in general want to feel like they're progressing in their lives, right? They want to feel like they're growing, like they want to feel their income's growing. They want to feel that their skills are growing, that just growth in all these elements. And so that's something we're always looking at, is like, how do we make people better? And that could be for, training opportunities. It could be, promotions, obviously, from like one store to a next. We have a managing partner program that, has some additional benefits for, our managers. And so we're always looking for this idea of how do we ensure that the people who want to be making progress feel like they have a path to do so. And, the more that we can do that, the better, better retention we'll have as people look to continue to grow. So, awesome. Well, I hope this was helpful. Like I said, this is all not all we think about, but this is so huge. Like we can talk about acquisitions, we can talk about cash flow and all these things, but at the end of the day, we're in the people business. If we don't have people in the stores who want to be there, none of the other stuff matters. Like this is honestly like more important than any of that. And even as I'm looking at properties every single day. Like I had an hour call today looking at new properties, and it's like, I just go back to like, none of that matters if we can't nail this system, the system for hiring people through, who we hire, how we hire them, get them on board, how do we keep them, how do we pay them, how do we make everybody happy and want to grow. And so, huge part for me. If any of you guys are interested in, my help and more on these systems, I'll drop a link here in the comments. I've got this program. It's called 8-Figure Franchisee. So it's this coaching program community where I help people install these playbooks. So everything I talked about today in more detail in a community where we help people hire, we help people develop the org charts, develop the bottlenecks, figure all this stuff out so you don't do it alone, but you're led by me in a group of, we got 60 people right now in all levels of ownership. Most of them are franchises because, that's my thing, but we have plenty of other guys in independent businesses who want to put systemized things into their business, and because that's what it's all about, right? It's all about systems. And so whatever you think about, whatever you do, if you really want to grow your business, it has to be not about you, but it has to be about the systems that you install. And so think about it in terms of, you have to have a people system, right? Hiring, pay, training, all that stuff. You have to have a cash system, how we manage cash flow, knowing all your numbers and your contribution margins and your pay numbers and all this stuff. You got to have a growth system, which is how we grow, whether that's new locations, whether it's same store, whether it's like, hey, I want to get into a new business, right? Totally. That could be part of your growth plan. And then finally, you got to have what I call an owner system, which is how do you as an owner process all this stuff, right? How do you think about these challenges and fears and overcome all the stuff that holds us back? Because at the end of the day, every one of our businesses is constrained by ourselves. Like we are the biggest bottleneck, and the better job we can do in like getting clarity around all these systems, then we can just like copy and paste. And so anyway, that is my process. So if anybody's interested and they want like my help and they want to copy my systems and all this stuff, you can go to my website. You can click the work with me button, and we can set up a call. I'll personally hop on with you if you want, and we can see if it applies. Cool. How many stores do we have for a district manager? Yeah. So our general model is 6 to 7 for a DM. is kind of the model for us. And then we've got, so we have currently, hold on, let me just do this, just move this down here. So it depends where you're at. So like if I was at, I'd probably look at 5. I'd probably 4 to 5 is when I'd like it. It really depends on like your kind of growth path is when I'd start to look for it. And then, generally it's, I would say 6 to 8 is kind of what they can quote handle. If you have too many, they get burnt out and they can't really make any progress. If you have too few, it's kind of like, there's more bandwidth. So that would be my recommendation is something in that range. And then it depends on like some people have this idea that like a DM is like a working manager too. Like they whoops, it's too high. There we go. They have them like cover a store on a day off, right? Where like they are the floating manager and they like handle all the stuff in the stores. We don't do that. Like our guys never run stores. They could be the second person to help, but that's what I. So if you wanted a working DM, you have less stores. You might have 4. And if you don't, then they can handle more. All right. How do we deal with a manager that crushes it but has a poor attitude? Yeah, great question. I mean, it's a couple things. One, I guess it's really sitting down with them and having a pretty honest conversation that, that their attitude sucks, right? To be totally honest. Like, so you'd have to really approach it. I don't know the situation, but I've had these conversations many times with people, who are on our team and who made us, I mean, at one point it was our most profitable manager who ran our most profitable store. Some days his attitude just completely sucked, and it was like, he was moody, and it was just like then we get complaints like from people because he was like acting rude, not only to us, but to customers. Right. But then other days he'd be totally fine. And so, for us, it was multiple meetings to say like, listen, man, like you've got, like, you're Superman, like you have these amazing powers, but then, there's this other time that comes through and it's just like a complete disaster. And honestly, at a certain point, it comes down to your own ability to stick to your core values. And if one of your core values is people who are team players and they don't have a lot of ego and they're like, they want to help and they're like, part of that for us is someone who's friendly. Right. So for us, it was multiple times to go through to say, listen, man, if you can't get this together, like if you can't stay steady, and if there's something going on in your life, like we totally work with people, right? We totally understand that a lot of shit happens and people go through stuff, but it's better to like long-term to try to figure it out, than otherwise. I mean, at the end of the day, that guy's not working for us anymore. So, we just, at a certain point, we reach your limit. And then what happens is you have that culture spread. So if it's known that, you could be a dick to everyone as long as you sell, what does that tell to everyone else, right? That, oh, they could do the same thing. And now all of a sudden you have like what becomes a pretty cancerous culture if bad behavior gets rewarded, right? And so I would try to fix it, and then if you can't fix it, you're parting ways, or you potentially don't, and then it can become a much more a worse problem later. So that's what I would want to go for. Cool. I only have like 3 more minutes here because I got a call I got to hop on. When you mentioned a skip meeting, if a general manager and district manager isn't getting along, did you meant like having a meeting without the district manager? Yes. So a skip meeting, this is like a military term. I have a bunch of these like military guys that kind of run everything for me. So in our case, it's COO. This is like the chain, right? Store manager, like techs. Hold on. So for us, let me just get rid of this line. So let's say it's like me and my brother, right? We're the owners or whatever, Brian and Chris. And then we have COO, then we have district manager, store manager, techs. So in our case, I mean, stupid thing. So yeah, it would be like the district manager having a direct conversation with the techs without the store manager. It would be the COO, or maybe you call him a general manager, having a conversation with the store manager, specifically not about the district manager, but like, hey, it's what's going on. Is there anything I can help you with? Other things, and this would be like me, or owners, kind of having a thing with the DMs without the GM in place, to learn about how it's going. Is there anything I can help you with? Are there any things you've been asking for or support that you're looking for that you're not currently getting? And then, eventually it's like a discovery of, well, did you ask for it? They said you were going to get it. Maybe there's a reason why. The point isn't to like get anybody really in trouble, but it's more of like just ensuring that you've got lines of communication. And in my case, and once again, it changes as you kind of get bigger. And this may seem like I don't know, not to say it's silly, but there's plenty of times like I'm talking, like when I go to stores, like I am talking directly to store managers. I am talking directly to techs. Like I'm finding out like what's going well and what's not going well. And obviously obviously seems silly when you're small, but as you get bigger, there's plenty of guys that work for us. I moved 225. I don't know everybody's name. And I'm not like in the stores every day as I'm, working on building kind of the next level of our business. But, when I go to stores, I'm shooting the videos and stuff. I'm learning things, and I'm digging into stuff that maybe people don't know about, or maybe they do. But anyway, so yeah, I would just the more communication you can have, the better as you look to grow it. So cool. I think I got all the questions here. So awesome, guys. It was good seeing everyone. I'll see you next week. And if there's anything I can do, go to my website. Happy to work with any of you to help implement all this stuff. Cheers.